our students, because the students are what really make this a vibrant community. And the buildings are beautiful. You know, as Jeff mentioned, we have a great campus, and you can see it in some movies, but the way you really experience a college, get a feel for the attitude, is by meeting a professor, seeing a class, talking with some students, and also looking at the advertisements for weekend events, seeing the kinds of things that students want to do so that you can see, is this the type of atmosphere in which I would like to spend the next 4 years of my life?
So you just put a lot of emphasis on that when you're talking to the kids. And
oh, yes.
Yeah. And Jeff, do you ever work with kids, or do you ever work with colleges in terms of how to get kids on campus, or is it just once they're on the campus?
No, it's predominantly once they're on the campus. I think most schools do a pretty good job, Abby, of promoting the campus visit on their website.
Yeah.
I think the campus visit has become a ritual.
Yeah.
You know, families load up and go on these whirlwind tours. You know, the media's written about it. Movies have come out about it recently. And I just want to make sure that colleges put the visit information easy to find for families, and explaining what all their options are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And that's a good point. Another, just a statistic to kind of emphasize this again, is it's on the TargetX website, is that I guess it's over half of students say that the most influential, I'm not quoting it directly, but the most influential thing in their choice of college is actually the college visit. And I can say personally that my top 2 choices for schools both have been chosen because of my visit there, and then a school that was actually my first choice school is completely off my list because the visit did not go well.
But that's why you visit, to find out, is that a good place for you? And so what my colleagues and I really try to stress is, to the college, be authentic, connect with the best fit students. Don't try to be all things to all people. Know who you are, and render a campus visit that really connects with those best fit students.
Yeah, and that was another question I had for both of you, actually, is how do you prepare your tour guides, too, for the fact that there's going to be kids who aren't necessarily a good fit for the school? What do you do if you see someone who just wouldn't do well there? Do you instruct people to talk to them about it? I mean, how do you deal with that?
I'll let Laura. I'll put Laura on the spot and let her start with that. I just want to say, I think a lot of times, sometimes the pressure on tour guides is really intense. You know, you have to know everything about the school and the history, and you get all these crazy questions from parents. But I'll let Laura tack that one.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You know, it's tough because it's also none of our places to really say, you know, from such an initial glance, is this student a good fit for Oxy? Because
that's true.
Especially at a school like Oxy that is so incredibly diverse, everybody can kind of fit in and contribute something really unique and really special. I think that we have a very diverse selection of tour guides so that they can interact with different groups of people, engage people on different levels, and just, you know, try and tell people that there are alternatives. So there's no one mainstream culture here. There's no one thing that every student has to do. And so we just tell tour guides to tell people how diverse it is. So even if you aren't an art major, or you are not in, you know, athletics or into a sorority, you can talk about your friends who are, and you can just say how there are lots of choices on campus. And so that's the most important thing, that there's choice. So if you don't feel like you fit into, you know, one box on campus, it doesn't mean that you won't be able to fit in somehow.
Yeah. And so basically you don't ever really discourage anyone from trying to go there, which I guess makes sense, because you wouldn't want to, you know, it wouldn't be friendly to tell someone that they're not a good fit, and I'm sure anyone could really find a place there too.
Well, you know, Abby, too. I think it's also, the tour guide only knows that family based upon an hour or so. And, you know, they might be having a bad day. You know, they could be running late, or mom and dad were having a fight in the car, or, you know,
it's
think
hard
that,
to judge from such a small window,
Right, or the kid might be introverted. The prospective student might be introverted, and the parents are asking all the questions, you know, but the student still might be really bright, and it might be a really good fit.
And Jeff, you were mentioning how you get some kind of strange questions sometimes. Would you mind going into examples of some questions either of you have gotten from parents or students?
Yeah. Well, we do. I joke about this all the time. I'm going to be writing a book on the campus visit, and I say I'm going to dedicate a chapter to some of the crazy questions parents have asked. You know, some of it, I don't know if it's necessarily crazy, Abby, but I'm really shocked at the minimal amount of research people do before they fly across the country to go see a school. You know, even if it's not on the, you know, hey, could you at least look up the College Board or look them up on the Princeton Review or
Basic
really
stats.
quickly, on the at a glance. You know, I've been at schools and people were asking just basics that, you
like
know.
How many students?
How many students and, you know, what sports division are you, or do you have, you know, underwater gymnastics or something? You know, it's just, I mean, I was at Oxy, and what's your student-teacher ratio, Laura? 9 to 1, something like that?
1 to 1.
You know, and the tour guide is sitting us down in a classroom, talking about all of these great professors, and you know, and how engaging they are, and how great the classroom experience at Oxy is, and she came here because she knew she was going to have that, you know, at this really great national liberal arts school, and you know, for about 10 minutes, we're sitting in this classroom talking about how wonderful faculty is and how much you engage with them. And a mom raises her hand and says, "Do your professors record podcast?" And I was just kind of like, "That's not what Oxy, you know."
Like,
here we are recording a podcast.
Yeah.
But I mean, Oxy isn't a place where you're going to be in a huge classroom with 300 people and it's all lecturing.
Like you wouldn't need to have,
Exactly.
Yeah.
You got it, Abby. So, you know, and then there's been questions like, where do kids have sex on campus?
No, God. How do
yes.
tour guides respond to that? Do you train them on how to respond to shocking questions?
Let me tell you, this is how I love telling this story. This is, I don't know if it's a little liberal arts school, great school. And the tour guide was really bright and fast. And the tour guide said, well, I'm not really sure, but I think last night, the chair you're sitting in is how the tour guide answered that. The mom asked that question. And the dean of admissions and the president loved it because it showed how intelligent and fast these students were, and actually gave her extra points, you know. Here's what, some of these questions are just, I think they're inappropriate. I was just at a school this weekend, and both doing a campus open house, and some of the questions they were really just kind of either basic information that you should know, or they're not questions that are appropriate for a group.
Yeah.
You know, you can pull the tour guide aside and ask that question, but you know, number one, do your research and be considerate. And we were really noticing that I think parents are getting more and more aggressive when they're out on campus visit.
It surprised me when I was there about how aggressive some of the parents were with questions and with kind of engaging in the tour. I don't know. It was a little bit different than I thought it would be.
No, we've been, and I'm sure Laura can attest, if you ask her ambassador tour guides who ask all the questions, it's parents.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And what are some questions that you two would recommend for students to ask that sometimes maybe they forget to ask? And go ahead, Laura, you can start off with that one.
I would say they should just ask the student experience questions. So ask what, you know, the biggest challenge, their first week of school, how they liked orientation, how they liked the residence halls, their first year classes, if they felt like they were a part of the campus community or if it took them a while to acclimate to that. You know, there are lots of things you can learn on a website, on the College Board website. There are a ton of research opportunities online. But the things you can't research are these student stories and talking about how a professor really helped one of our tour guides when she didn't think she was doing so well in her physics class, or how a girl, you know, how her roommate really saved her freshman year because she had this strong connection with her. You know, those are the things that you can't research, and that's really the whole point of coming to campus, is to get those wonderful student stories.
Yeah, and Jeff, also I was reading something on Target X again about how you really do have to emphasize the stories. And I think as a student, I can also attest to that, that for me, going on tours, that was something that really stuck with me almost more than anything else, was not the facilities or like this great pool or this team or whatever, but for example, one kid the tour guide who was talking about how he got independent study with a teacher, and then that helped him through this whole thing that was going on in his home life and things like that. But so to train the tour guides, this is again for both of you, how do you